Is it just me, or is 2 the magic number for video games? It always seemed to me that whenever a developer got around to making the second game in a series, they were able to fully realize whatever it was they were trying to do in the first game, and made a much better game as a result. I mean, think about it. Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 2, Resident Evil 2, and Mega Man 2, all of them took the gameplay mechanics, stories, and features of the first game and expanded upon them to make a superior sequel. And keeping with that tradition, we have the Twisted Metal series. The first game was a groundbreaking title that brought to the world the concept of car combat. We were introduced to Calypso, a wish-granting maniac with seemingly unlimited power, an array of colorful characters driving their own personal vehicles of destruction and mayhem, and the Twisted Metal tournament itself, where those same characters would destroy each other and the city around them in an effort to get a single wish, whatever their heart desires, but always with some kind of sinister twist at the hands of Calypso.
You don't have to do this, man. You don't have to do this. I'm sorry about the girl, man. You don't have to do this.
Cross me again, it's over.
That was anticlimactic.
Oh my God.
It was fun, it was chaotic, and it was awesome. But everything that Twisted Metal did right, Twisted Metal 2 did even better. For starters, the story, and by extension the game, is much more expansive. Whereas the first game took place exclusively in Los Angeles, in Twisted Metal 2, Calypso is struck with the idea of taking the tournament global, which means we get stages set in various locations all over the world. Places like Hong Kong, Moscow, and Paris are all now caught in the crosshairs of Twisted Metal. Along with that, the way the story is told in Twisted Metal 2 is much more appealing than the first game, which pretty much only featured still images with lines of scrolling text. There were a bunch of FMV cutscenes filmed when the game's title was still high octane, and they were pretty much finished and ready to go, and they're actually pretty entertaining, if a bit cheesy, but they were given the boot in the finished product. Here though, we get some very cool motion comic style cutscenes that feature some pretty damn good artwork. At the very least, we get to see and hear the characters, which makes them much better by default, but I must say, the voice acting, especially for Calypso, is really good, at least by the standards in 1996, which typically saw some horrendous voice work in video games.
Congratulations, I have granted your wish. Have a great time in the friendly skies.
Let's go! Wahoo! Hey man, this can't be right.
Once again, the tone is sort of a horror comedy, with every wish made being turned on its head in a monkey's paw type of scenario. Come to think of it, Calypso is kind of like Mr. Gaunt in the movie Needful Things, if anyone remembers that. The point though, the storytelling in Twisted Metal 2 is miles beyond what it was in the first game. Storytelling definitely isn't the most important aspect of a car combat game though. It's obviously the gameplay, and once again, Twisted Metal 2 took what was already great in the first game and beefed it up quite a bit. For starters, we get 9 returning vehicles, 2 of them being unlocked with cheat codes, and we also get 5 new vehicles to try out, and most of them would become regular staples in the series. There's also a new boss character in the form of Dark Tooth, which sounds very unpleasant. He's basically the big monster truck version of Sweet Tooth, and he actually could be unlocked using a Game Shark or similar cheating device back in the day, but playing as him would seriously bug out your game. We also get the return of all of the prerequisite weapons from the previous game, a wide array of missiles, mortars, and so on. My personal favorites being the ricochet bombs, because of how fun it is to just fire them off in random directions and see who gets hit first. It's kind of like playing an explosive game of dodgeball. Very fun stuff. Of course, every character also has their own special weapons, and they range from devastating to practically useless, but at the very least, every character can also perform secret attacks by entering certain button combinations. The best one being Minion's special attack that freezes enemies in place while also blasting them with a barrage of missiles, which is very satisfying, as well as dealing some major damage. So even if a character's stock special attack really sucks, you at least have access to some really cool special moves. The stages also play a major factor in how awesome the gameplay is, because each one is unique and comes complete with a multitude of stage hazards, secret areas, teleportation paths, and of course plenty of stuff to destroy. Most notable being the Eiffel Tower, which gives you access to the Paris rooftops after you blow it up. Or on the other hand, stages like Antarctica, which slowly falls apart as you play, making the battlefield smaller and smaller. And of course, there is the Amazon level, which is surrounded by lava, which begins damaging your car as soon as you touch it. All of these stages are very inventive and fun to play around in, plus in the 2-player challenge mode, you can even play in some stages from the first game as well as a stage from Jet Moto of all things, which is pretty cool. All of those cool features wouldn't be worth much without tight and responsive controls, which Twisted Metal 2 has in spades. The developers wisely made the decision to leave the realistic car physics at the door and gave us something a bit more on the arcadey side, which feels great. Every vehicle has its own stats, of course, and they all handle a little differently, but overall this game is a breeze to get the hang of and is so satisfying to play. Conversely, if you want to see what a car combat game plays like without this rock-solid gameplay engine, just play Twisted Metal 3 or 4, which had to be made from the ground up, and the results were much less impressive. So to sum up, Twisted Metal 2 is everything a good game sequel should be, and it's still to this day one of the best car combat games ever made. It's definitely the best on the PS1 at least. There are other awesome games in the genre that grace the PlayStation, such as Vigilante 8 and Rogue Trip Vacation 2012, which itself uses the same gameplay engine as Twisted Metal 2, but for me, this game is still at the top of the flaming heap and may perhaps never be topped. Indeed, the perfect video game sequel if there ever was one. It's Twisted Metal 2. And it's awesome.
Please, Calypso, you gotta make me famous. Make it so the entire world knows my face.
Your wish is granted.
Hey, don't touch the face.
Nice. Oh, I can see all of them now.
So there you go, everybody. There's my little review of Twisted Metal 2, which, again, I reiterate, I think is a perfect sequel. It does everything the first game did, but better, and that makes it truly especially awesome. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think of Twisted Metal 2 or car combat games in general? What's your favorite? Because there's a lot of them out there, and you could say maybe like Twisted Metal Black even is superior to Twisted Metal 2, but I don't know. This one to me hits the right spot in all the right ways. But anyway, that's the whole point of discussion, is we all get to share our opinions. So let me know down in the comments, and I think that'll do it for today. I said all I needed to say about Twisted Metal 2. Maybe I'll come back later with Twisted Metal 3, which could just be like fun by contrast. Like, here's a really good Twisted Metal game, here's a kind of shitty one, and the differences are marked and profound. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, this edition of Mad Panic Gaming. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.